Thank you. Well, in spite of that song, I'm willing to bet that in the minds of most people, Woody Guthrie is a guy who went around, he was a white guy who went around singing about white people. Poor white people, mostly. And it's interesting that in the Q&A sessions after the other Woody Guthrie show that I do, the question often comes up, what about black Americans? Did he know or care or sing or write or think anything at all about the black experience in America? And the answer is yes, of course. How could he not, given where he came from and when he came from there? He was born in 1912 in a place called Okemah, Oklahoma, where, as he said in an interview in the 1940s, using the language of the 1940s, he said, they had a pretty crazy way of looking at the colored situation down there. How crazy was it? Well, he said that he and other children in Okemah were actively taught by their parents to push black people off the pavements, off the sidewalks, if they saw them. Now, Woody's Oklahoma was ruled, I think politics in Woody's Oklahoma were pretty much ruled by white racists. And when Woody was, I guess, about 9 years old, the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, just a few miles up the road from Okemah, went up in flames in what was pretty much the worst race riot in American history, at least since the draft riots and the Civil War. This is when more than 300 black citizens were killed by white gangs and police. And the entire black section of Tulsa was torched. Thousands of people became refugees and black people. And so really it was one of the most horrendous incidents in American history. So that's Woody's Oklahoma, and it's in the air when he's growing up. Politics, as I say, are ruled by people who used to dress like that. Local politics and state politics. One of whose greatest supporters was the Okfuskee District Court clerk, Charlie Guthrie, Woody's father, who wrote pamphlets praising the Klan and who sometimes rode out with them on their adventures. There's no documentary evidence that he was a Klan member, but he certainly supported them and had a lot to do with them. So lynch law ruled. Jim Crow ruled. Does anyone not know what the phrase Jim Crow means? It's okay if you don't. Jim Crow. You all know what that phrase means? Oh, you don't? Okay, Jim Crow. It's the nickname for those very demeaning segregationist rules and laws in the United States. Apartheid, segregation. They call it Jim Crow based on, there was a minstrel figure, a black and white minstrel figure in the 1830s where, white people would put, black cork on their faces and make themselves up into a caricature, a very demeaning caricature of white people, sort of like the Robertsons Gollywog, that kind of thing. And they dance and sing and make a lot of money at the expense of black people. They would present these black people as buffoons, as clowns, who just adore being on the old plantation in slavery. And one of those minstrel characters was called Jim Crow. So the name Jim Crow came to be used to describe that raft of segregationist laws that kept black people down. And Jim Crow ruled the South and certainly ruled Woody Guthrie's Oklahoma. And I think it's no exaggeration to say that Woody was positively traumatized by the racism into which he was born and which he ultimately fought down. And you could see, if you have a look at some of his drawings, which have been collected in a wonderful book called Woody Guthrie Artworks, you'll see how many drawings he does that involve the Klan terrorizing him as well as black Americans. Now there is a family history to some of this trauma. In 1911, the year before Woody's birth, in Okemah, there was a white policeman named George Loney who went to the house of a black man named Nelson to arrest him on some minor charge. I think it was sheep stealing or something like that. Well, Nelson was hiding out in the back of the house. His wife, Laura, 13-year-old son, Lawrence, and little baby, their baby, were in the front of the house fighting off this very violent, abusive policeman. And thinking that his mother, quite rightly thinking that his mother was in danger, young Lawrence grabbed a rifle and shot the policeman in the leg. Policeman bled to death on their front lawn. So Nelson is taken into the Okemah jail. Laura, Lawrence, and the baby are dragged into a guardhouse across the alley from the jail. 2 nights later, a lynch mob breaks into the guardhouse, drags Laura, Lawrence, and the baby to the Canadian River Railroad Bridge 7 miles outside of Okemah. They rape Laura, sexually abuse Lawrence, and then lynch them both from the railroad bridge, leaving the baby crying by the side of the road. And some of the good citizens of Okemah were so happy and pleased with their handiwork that they were soon selling postcards to commemorate it. Selling postcards. Now, one of the things that you can't quite tell from looking at this picture of this happy, grinning lynch mob is the possibility, not certainty, but possibility that Woody Guthrie's father is up there among them. Some evidence, documentary evidence, anecdotal evidence suggests that he was part of that mob. It wasn't until later in the 1940s that Woody himself was able to deal through music with that possible episode of family history. As I walk down that old dark town, the town where I was born, I heard the saddest, lonesome moan that I ever heard before. My hair, it trembled at the roots, cold chills run down my spine. As I drew near that jailhouse, I heard this deathly cry. Don't kill my baby and my son. Don't kill my baby and my son. You can stretch my neck from that old river bridge, but don't kill my baby and my son. I've heard the cries of a panther, and I've heard the coyotes yell, but that lonesome voice shook the whole wide world, and it come from the cell of a jail. And I've heard the screech owls screeching, and the hoot owls that hoot in the night. But the graveyard itself is happy compared to the voice in that jailhouse that night. Don't kill my baby and my son. Don't kill my baby and my son. You can stretch my neck from that old river bridge, but don't kill my baby and my son. Then I saw a picture postcard, showed the Canadian River Bridge, two bodies hanging, twisting in the wind, that poor mother and a boy that they'd lynched. Now there's a wild wind blowing down the river, wild wind blowing through the trees, wild wind blowing round this whole wide world. Here's what that wild wind is saying to me. Don't kill my baby and my son. Don't kill my baby and my son. It was also in the late 1940s that Woody wrote another song called Hang Knot, a Slip Knot. And it shows how he began really to develop an almost a familial relationship with the victims of lynching and race hatred, perhaps as though he were trying to cancel out that possible chapter of his own family history. And listen to what he does with family here. Did you ever see the hangman tie a hang knot? Did you ever see the hangman tie a hang knot? Yes, I've seen it many a time. He whines and whines and whines, and after 13 times he's got a hang knot. Tell me, will that slip knot slip? No, it will not. Will that slip knot slip? No, it will not. Well, it'll slip around your neck, but it won't slip back again. Oh, that hang knot, Lord God, that slip knot. Did you ever lose a brother on the hang knot? Did you ever lose a brother on the hang knot? Well, my brother was a slave. He tried to escape, so they drug him to his grave on that hang knot. Did you ever lose a father to the hang knot? Did you ever lose a father to the hang knot? Well, they hung him from a pole, and they shot him full of holes, and they left him to rot on that hang knot. Who makes the laws for that hang knot? I mean, who makes the laws for that hang knot? I mean, who says who goes to the calaboose and gets the hangman's noose on that hang knot? I don't know who makes the laws for that hang knot. I don't know who makes the laws for that hang knot. But the bones of many a man, they are whistling in the wind because they tie their laws with a hang knot. I mean, the bones of many a man, they are whistling in the wind because they tie their laws with a hang knot.